What was the other one? Batman Dark Tomorrow or something was the one that was on like half the list that was clearly not correct.
Yeah, that was crap. Anyway.
Welcome to the Nerd Enthusiast Gaming Podcast, where today we are discussing the launch of the Nintendo GameCube. We are recording in October of 2023. This is a month before the anniversary of it. It released in November 18th, 2001. Damn, we getting old.
Wow.
So that's what we're going to be covering. If you guys like what you hear today, please consider supporting us over on Patreon, patreon.com/nerdenthusiast. You guys can support us for as little as $1 a month for exclusive content. You can get early ad-free content for $5 a month over there. Also, we wanted to shout out Peter Olley, O-L-L-E-Y, over on Patreon. Thank you for your support over there. We really, really appreciate you.
Peter, thank you so much. Again, we appreciate what you do, what all our Patreon subscribers does for us. Thank you guys so much.
Plus, check out all of our other creators. We got creators over on Twitch, twitch.tv/nerdenthusiast. And then we got a team covering poker. All sorts of great stuff, guys. Please check out our other content as well. As I mentioned, November 18th, 2001. This was 3 days after the OG Xbox launched. And this would have been... PS2 launched in 2000, right? PS2 was a year ahead of these systems, or am I wrong about that?
Yep, because Dreamcast was 99, PlayStation 2 came out 2000, Xbox came out 2001.
All right, so these came out a year later to compete with the PS2.
Mm-hmm.
Wes, before we get into a whole lot of different information, I just want to talk to you about what the vibes and the feelings were from launch day. I wasn't there. I'm going to give you guys a different perspective shortly, but I want to hear from you first, Wes. What was it like?
It was a mixed bag, to be honest with you, man. It was the Nintendo enthusiasts were like all excited. You know, the Nintendo diehards were, hey, I'm getting a new Nintendo system. I can't wait. Then you had the gamers aspect of it where, you know, we're coming off an Xbox launch a few days prior, which impressed a lot of people. So, and then, you know, the PlayStation 2 still riding high. So it was a mixed bag, man. Me personally, I mean, I was still working at EB Games and I just bought my Xbox and I was loving Halo. I wasn't really crazy about the GameCube. Not initially. I was like, I can wait. We'll see. But then, Nintendo changed my mind. Nintendo threw a hands-on private party in Philly, and they invited a bunch of people in the industry, EB managers. I went, and it was they showed us, they put us. It was like in a hall, a banquet hall.
Just for some clarity, was this before the launch, or was this like after the launch?
No, this was before the launch.
Okay,
this was before the launch, and they had screening rooms, like separate screening rooms, and you would go in and you would get like an up close view of the game. I walked in the viewing room for Star Wars Rogue Leader. Man, it was like right out of the movie. Just seeing the X-Wings up close and their wings open up, descending on the Death Star. Woo! I was like, okay, Nintendo. So then I left there and I went into the screening room for Luigi's Mansion. It looks so good. So good.
and different.
It was very different.
It wasn't a Mario game.
You know what? And that was the thing. For the first time, I think, in a long time, we didn't get a Mario game at launch. We got Luigi. So just seeing those two games changed my mind, and I said, okay, so I guess I'm pre-ordering a GameCube for launch.
You were still able to get a GameCube that late. Wait, I'm sorry. How far away from that was the launch? Like, how many months was it before launch?
I guess it was like 2 months prior to launch.
And you could still pre-order one at that point.
I threw money on it just in case as a gamer.
Oh,
You know,
okay. I
I was
got you.
like,
You're like, all right, I'll just to secure it.
as a gamer, right? You're gonna do it just to be on the safe side,
Sure.
and whether I picked it up or not, I was gonna wait and see. But after coming out of that Nintendo event, I was totally blown away, and I was super super impressed. Well, it's just like what Microsoft did with the Xbox. Everybody was on the fence. They held a private hands-on event, and I came out totally blown away. Nintendo did the same thing, so I never looked back, and I was like, okay, I got my GameCube, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute of it. So yeah, so that was my experience with the GameCube. My first impressions. But again, my experience is a little bit different than yours. So I'm curious to hear about you.
Well, I do want to hear about your experiences on launch day too. Do you want to have that now, or do you want to wait to? I'll tell you what I'm up to first. It doesn't make a difference to me.
You go first.
All right, so I had pre-ordered an original Xbox. I had
Mm-hmm.
pre-ordered a PS2. I had pre-ordered a GameCube. Obviously, I already had the PS2 at this point. I got PS2 on launch day. Um, I really love the PS2, Wes. I think we talked about this before. It's probably my favorite PlayStation console, and I played the hell out of it that entire generation. I did end up getting an Xbox and a GameCube later on, but at launch I didn't get it. So you're saying we had pre-orders, but I didn't pick them up. I actually canceled both pre-orders. So
What?
this was a time. There were two times distinctly where I almost got out of gaming, and this was the second time. I was happy with my PlayStation. I was like, I don't need all these consoles. I don't want to spend all this money. I was young also, so I didn't have tons of money to spend to begin with. And I was thinking, I'm so happy with the PlayStation. Do I really need an Xbox? It looks more powerful. Obviously, I bought into the point where I pre-ordered both of these systems, right? The GameCube, kind of like you, I didn't get to go to that closed, like behind doors thing and see those games. So I was like, nothing's really catching me. Luigi's Mansion's like not that interesting to me, and Rogue Leader looks really cool, but I'm okay. And the Xbox didn't have, well, it had a Halo. Halo was what I was interested in. But I was like, I'm not going to buy an Xbox just for Halo. So I canceled both those pre-orders. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually, time passed, and eventually, I want to say I got the GameCube first, and I got the Xbox last. I'm like 99% sure that's what happened because I think I played Rogue Leader, and I was like, oh my god, I need this.
Yeah,
So
man.
I think I bought a GameCube like pretty shortly after launch, and this was a period of time, guys, where it wasn't insane to get a console back then. Like not like it was with like PS5s and like with the Wii came out. It was not like that. Like they were like harder to get, but not impossible to get. You know what I mean?
Correct. Correct.
So I was able to get a GameCube relatively easy. And the Xbox, I want to say I waited at least a full year until it had like a library of decent games. And what really pushed me towards the Xbox was just its power. Every time I would read an article, because there really wasn't like YouTube or anything back then, at least not anything like it is today. So you would read. It's a weird thing, right? So I would be reading articles, and everybody would say the same thing. This version of the game is better on Xbox. Everything. This version is better on Xbox. Eventually, I got an Xbox because of that. I wanted to play it in the best way possible. The GameCube, the Star Wars game, obviously. Eventually, I knew there was a new Mario game coming out and had to have that. I had an N64. That's probably still my favorite console of all time. So I just didn't get what the GameCube was at first, but I came around to it, and it was a fantastic console. I'm very glad I picked it up.
Oh, definitely. I agree. It was a great, great console.
But I wasn't there day one. So the last thing I want to go back to you with is what was it like on launch day? Give me the experience that you had being there. Were you working? Were you just picking it up, or what was that like?
No, I always worked a launch day. I love working system launches. We
Yeah, me
opened
too.
early. The excitement was there. everybody was excited to get a new system with their games, and it was that was like a great time because like we said, the Xbox just came out 3 days prior, so I just went through that, and then I'm going through it again, and there were a lot of repeat customers that I saw on Xbox launch come back for the GameCube, but then there were a lot of brand new Nintendo loyalists that wanted the GameCube because it's a Nintendo product. It
Yeah.
was great. We had a good selection of launch titles. Everybody had their stuff pre-ordered. We had a good amount of extra accessories like controllers and stuff, but it was great. It was the energy was fantastic. It was a little different than the Xbox launch. There was excitement around the Xbox, but Nintendo brings its own energy in a sense. So it felt different, but it was great. It was great to work through it.
That's awesome. I need you to correct me if I'm wrong. When the Xbox came out, they only had a black console, and when the GameCube came out, they only had a purple console. Is that correct, or did either one of those have a different color option?
Xbox was just black.
Okay.
Now, uh, viewers, if you're once you watch this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say we had purple, black, and silver as far as GameCube choices.
There definitely all those colors did exist for sure,
They
but I
did.
I want to say at launch there was only purple, but I could be wrong. I could be. If anything, I would say there's purple and black, and silver might have came out
Correct.
later.
Right. There was definitely two because I remember
Okay.
having a choice. Purple being my favorite color, I went to the purple one.
Purple
But
rain.
yeah, there you go. So silver. I don't know if silver was a third choice, but it was definitely purple and black.
Okay. Yeah, I think I had when I got mine, I got purple also. Just because I wanted something different. At that point we had all like very basic colored consoles and
Yeah, because you
um
figure the PlayStation 2 was black, the Xbox was black.
except for Nintendo. Nintendo 64 had an awesome. I mean, that's probably like the best colored consoles ever, man. All those like translucent. They had a blue, an orange, a green. They went nuts with the N64s.
Oh my god, those translucent Nintendo 64s are crazy expensive.
Yeah, they're depending on the color and the one that you want. Yeah, they are.
Mhm.
But I
My,
think that's really cool. I wish Nintendo would do more stuff like that.
definitely.
Like my friend Richard, who used to do Nerd Enthusiast stuff with me, he got his Switch modded. Like this was early on. Like the Switch was probably out for like a year, and he
Mhm.
modded his Switch just to get it to look like the atomic purple. So he had like atomic purple Joy Cons and like the whole case got transformed. It's like this is the coolest Switch I've ever seen. But why doesn't Nintendo do stuff like that, man? Like
I know.
they kept the Switch so basic. I mean, they have done a couple things here and there, but like,
Mhm.
come on, man, have fun again.
Talking about modding, I did buy down the road. I wound up buying an extra GameCube because I wound up getting it modded to play imports because
Okay,
I was still big into importing at the time. And again, we mentioned before with importing, the games would usually come out first there, and then we would get them 6 months or so later. So I
gotcha.
had I bought a GameCube just to so I could play my imports on, and I had it modded with a little switch in the back. So it was like I had to turn the switch if I was going to play American or Japanese games. But yeah,
What
man.
was the most memorable game that you imported on the GameCube? First one that comes to mind.
First ones that come to mind were Wind Waker.
Okay, that makes sense.
It was Wind Waker.
There you go. Not a shock.
It was
How
Wind
early
Waker.
did you get that? Was it 6 months or was it
It
earlier or
was
like a
it
short?
was like it was like 6 months.
Okay, that's cool.
It was like 6 months. But yeah, that there was a couple other Nintendo games that I got early just because, but most of them. I mean, they came out in America anyway, and I wound up buying
Another copy.
another copy.
I do want to mention two other interesting things about the GameCube. The one is this. I don't know if you remember this, but I almost forgot about this, and then I recently saw a picture, and I was like, "Holy crap! I totally forgot about this." Do you remember the GameCubes being all over McDonald's? They were in like not every McDonald's, but they were in many, many McDonald's across the US.
I don't remember that at all. Like
They
little
were
kiosks.
basically they were there so kids could play them. Like it was in like the play area, and they
Mhm.
were they were hooked up. Or actually, some of them weren't in the play area. Some of them were. It just depends on the McDonald's, but they were in many, many McDonald's throughout the U.S.
I don't remember that. I mean, I'm not a big McDonald's person, so
Okay, well,
I'm not. I couldn't tell you if they
let
did
the
or not.
fat kid tell you they were in there. Trust me. No, I just always thought that was cool. I was like, oh man, these GameCubes are all over the place, you know, and like Wii's were in like hospitals for kids and stuff. I'm
Hmm.
sure that happens frequently. I'm sure hospitals do get like video game consoles for kids. That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But just seeing him at McDonald's, I was like, man. And I think the reason was this, and this goes into part number two. The GameCube struggled. It was not Nintendo's best-selling console for sure. I think if you look at like their top 10 consoles, I want to say it's like number 10 or something. To give you guys an idea, this is how it compared. So the PS2 to this day, as far as right now goes, in October of 2023, is still the best-selling console of all time, 150 million units. Comparing that to Xbox, which actually beat GameCube this generation, which is crazy because Xbox was the new kid on the block. Xbox sold 24 million units of the original Xbox. GameCube only sold 21.74 million. Xbox beat it by 3 million, which is insane.
You know, that's surprising because Nintendo is a proven name. Everybody knows Nintendo. And
It is.
For Xbox to come out of the gate and outsell the GameCube,
The
now,
mentality of the community was the GameCube is like childish. It's like, for little kids. And Nintendo was really just trying to get, any kind of attention they could on their
mhm.
system. I think that's why they put all those GameCubes in McDonald's. I think they probably gave them to those McDonald's just to be like, here, we need people to want to buy the GameCube.
But like I mentioned earlier, this was the first Nintendo game that didn't launch with a Mario. So
That's true.
I wonder if that hurt because they didn't have a Mario game for quite some time after launch.
You're right. I'm sure that probably did affect things. But I just thought it
Just
was interesting, like that
yeah.
it was in McDonald's, and I have a feeling it was because they weren't doing well. And I this is during this generation at some point. I couldn't pinpoint it and tell you exactly when, but during this generation is when I began starting to work at EB Games, and I remember clearly that the GameCube was not, being crushed compared to Xbox and PlayStation, and specifically PlayStation. PlayStation was just unbelievably dominant at that time. And I remember we had like this stupid thing where one of the like any of the platform holders could pay us to say whatever they want, like in the beginning of
Mhm.
answering the phone. We would have to say thank you for calling EB Games, your GameCube headquarters. You
Yep.
know, I
Yep.
remember having to say those things, and it's because they were trying to push them, and then there'd be like sales competitions and all sorts of stuff, which was cool because you could win stuff. But I don't know. It was just really weird seeing Nintendo struggle. Like I was just like, why is this happening? Like, I don't know.
Yes, it's I mean, on our level, it didn't seem like it struggled because we were selling them like crazy.
Yeah, you were talking about that with me. My store was like GameCube. Like I couldn't give them away almost. It was like it was crazy. And this wasn't at launch. This was probably like a year or so later. I'm assuming because they were hard to move, unlike PS2.
Well, you figure year one, they sold on its own
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure.
because it was Christmas time. They came out at the perfect time. So people were buying Xboxes, people were buying GameCubes, people were buying PS2s to give as gifts. So
Yep.
anything and everything sold, regardless of what it was. So at the time, yeah, I we were selling them like crazy.
At launch, yeah, I definitely agree that it
Yeah,
probably was, but it tapered off kind of quickly for the GameCube, which was surprising to me. But then N64 didn't, PlayStation kicked the crap out of them that generation too, so it
they
shouldn't be a
did.
total surprise.
They did. But Nintendo they launched the GameCube launched with a bunch of games.
A
Granted,
bunch of cool games.
some of them were ports from other systems, but still they had a decent selection of games to pick from.